Alright, so I'm not quite sure how to react to the current news around Halo Infinite. But some background about who I am and the type of stuff I kind of like to do. I am a former freelance game programmer. I currently work on virtual reality industrial applications because making, creative projects around just trying to break into the games industry turned out to just not be a very good career move in general. Just not a good industry to try and be part of whatsoever. And hell, Microsoft can't even commit to hiring full-time staff. They decided, allegedly, that throughout Halo Infinite's development, we are going to just hire contractors for most of the development and just churn through a bunch of talent, leading to probably a code base that is terrible to work through. And how can you have morale about working on a project when you are not going to see the end of it anyway? But anyways, let's just talk about my general perceptions of the game. The last time I played the game was in December. I played through the campaign. That was okay. I mean, it wasn't super memorable, but it finally felt like a Halo game. So, lovely. So, the multiplayer, the free-to-play multiplayer, I did not have any incentive to want to play through that. Just Battle Pass, the moment you say Battle Pass, you gotta unlock thing, you gotta pay money to buy colors to customize your Spartan. You gotta, grind to do things that you didn't have to grind for. I'm okay grinding for armor pieces and all this other stuff, but colors? Really? You're gonna make me work for colors? You're gonna make me pay for colors? No. So already it's hard to connect with the game because I can't make my Spartan look the way I want it to without either, paying out of pocket if I'm impatient or grinding for it. Just no. No. So, just no. But on top of that, no custom games browser. Forge is coming, but it wasn't there at launch, so I kind of stopped playing. I have been waiting for Halo to finally launch since it came out. I've been waiting for split screen campaign co-op. I've been waiting for just all the features that were basic in prior Halo games. Prior Halo games had a fraction of the budget that Halo Infinite has had to work with. And yet Halo Infinite comes out as an incomplete product. So, just in general, I just don't know what to say about that whole thing. So I've not played since December. And I've been idly keeping up with the news on the game to see if it's finally in a state where I would actually finally want to pay $60 for it. When I played through the campaign, I spent $2 on a Game Pass promotion, played through the campaign. It's okay, I'm gonna wait to actually put my own money into this game. That's basically my whole opinion there. So let's talk about split screen co-op being removed. Well, I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to have to re-articulate an argument I've made in the past, so we are going to go to words I said 4 years ago in a video I made 4 years ago where I kind of lamented the fact that Halo 5 Guardians did not have split screen multiplayer. So let's place it that, because if every argument I make in there is relevant to today's argument, and we are going to maybe I'll make some commentary as we go through that for any information or things I say that are out of date.
Hello everyone, this is Shooter Fantasy. With the digital and online age of gaming, it sometimes feels as though couch co-op split screen can be left completely in the dust. For example, we're going to use Halo 5 as an example throughout this entire video. So, 343 Industries made the decision to have split screen removed as a feature in Halo 5 for what they claimed to be based on performance reasons. And the reasons were probably valid to some degree. However, sometimes people care more about spending time together in the same room than they do about absolute performance. I remember my father and I were going to play Halo 5 together, as we have every other Halo game. And after spending hours trying to figure out how to enable split screen, we found out it just wasn't a feature to begin with. So, after I played the campaign by myself, it was the first Halo game I actually ended up selling. Even Halo 4, with all of its controversy, is still on the shelf. It was never ever sold. And really the reason is because Halo has always been the type of game to sit on the shelf until I have a group of people to play it with. And Halo 5's replay value is squandered entirely for me for this reason. And most of my friends jumped from Xbox consoles to PlayStation, so there was even less fun to be had.
And an addendum, Halo Infinite now joins that rank of not being worth playing for me. I wanted to play this on a couch with my dad. And we're going to get into some BS around that situation after this video is done.
There's always been a magic to playing games in the same room that playing online just does not have for me. And 343 Industries seems to have recognized their mistake in this regard, and future installments of Halo will have split screen again. It's just a shame my father won't know what happened in Halo 5, as he generally never has time to play games on his own time, unless I'm spending time with him on Father's Day.
And it looks like we won't be playing through Halo Infinite either.
In which case, we're playing a game with split screen, not going to be Halo 5. So, but here comes the question. How hard is it to actually put split screen in a game? From my personal experience, it's relatively easy if you know what you're doing. And it turns out I actually created a split screen system for one of my working titles called Project NOR. So first, let's go over how I handle dealing with multiple controllers. This doesn't get into like the performance stuff, but it's still a part of the difficulty of adding split screen to a game. So primarily, I have a gamepad system dedicated to knowing how many controllers are connected at any given time. And it works on a first come, first served basis. It waits for a newly created player to ask it for something to use as input. So, when a player is created, it has no controller assigned. So, the player asks this gamepad system to be permanently assigned one for the duration of the match. The system checks how many controllers it has left in reserve, and it assigns one to the asking player. Due to API limitations set by Microsoft, the max controllers that can be dished out with full functionality is 4 controllers. So presently, as long as only 4 players ask for a controller to be assigned, there's no issues. The game is also hard-coded to only allow 4 local players for this reason. On a technical level, with this gamepad manager, I could implement features such as using your phone as an extra controller, as well as support more than 4 players with some sacrifices made after the first 4 controllers are connected by using another controller API. But with 4 players maximum being the standard for most consoles and systems, it has not been seen as worth the extra development effort. Next, let's go over how I handle showing more than one screen. So the first thing I have is I have a split screen management system that runs in the game, and it's dedicated to managing how many screens should be displayed and how they should be displayed. So what happens is newly created local players ask the split screen manager for space on screen. And the split screen manager automatically shuffles around the total amount of screens so that everything fits. And technically, my split screen system can show way over 16 screens at a time. But not only has that proven to be overkill, the processing power required is rather huge. Showing even 2 screens at a time with the resolution cut in half takes more processing power than just showing 1 screen by itself. And why is this? Well, even with the cut resolution, you're having to render the world, its lighting, and all of its assets twice. You're also having to render post-processing twice, and etc. There's also things like loading zones and whatnot to deal with. Halo's always dealt with it by teleporting other players if you go out of a loading zone and stuff like that, so there's been workarounds in regards to that. But basically, the more screens shown on your TV or monitor, the harder the graphics processor has to work. And of course, there's always been ways around this. Even consoles like the Nintendo 64 manage split screen. And generally in split screen, assets aren't rendered the absolute best that they can on the system. Halo games before Halo 5 would sacrifice draw distance, model complexity, texture quality, and other elements so that you could have a smoother experience in split screen. And when you're dealing with 4-player split screen, chances are, even with settings cranked super low in such a configuration, you're not going to notice as much because the resolution per screen obviously isn't as high as playing with one large screen. But with 4K being the next big push, that may change to some degree. Presently, when you play 4-player split screen on a 1080p capable console, at maximum each screen is running at 480 by 270 pixels. But some games take an extra step and may lower the render resolution per screen to conserve more graphical power. Some games may even use adaptive resolution scaling for each screen, so depending on the game's intensity, the actual render resolution will fluctuate for each person playing on your TV or monitor. And in the Xbox 360 era, a game like Halo 4 rendered natively at 720p, which meant 4-player split screen gave each person a screen that was at max 320 by 180 pixels. And with the push for 4K that consoles are making, you're asking for a maximum resolution of 1080p per person for 4-player split screen. And at this point in time, unless you have a top tier PC, the likelihood of rendering at 1080p for 4 people would be limited. The 1080 Ti struggles to run some games at 4K 60 FPS with just one player with settings completely maxed out. And with the current Xbox One X, it's nowhere near the power of a 1080
Not to be confused with the Xbox Series X, by the way.
Ti. At best, it's on par with an RX 580 or a GTX 1060. But the overall point I want to make here is that with higher resolutions comes less chances to hide lower detailed assets, and more work has to be done with optimizing assets so they still look good even with technical constraints. Now we're gonna kind of forget about the fact that more pixels means more required processing power, as that generally scales as hardware advances with each generation. But there's more pixels on screen for people to differentiate between as we get to these higher resolutions. So the blips and inconsistencies created by lowering model and texture quality, as well as lowering render distance and such in split screen, will be more noticeable. Now, it was very easy to tell that Halo 5 had to make some massive graphical sacrifices to even reach 60 frames per second with just one person playing with its sub 1080p resolution. The LOD pop-in was very noticeable. Textures and details can look absolutely bland and abysmal at times. Enemies at a distance have noticeably choppier animations, although this isn't an uncommon optimization tactic. But as you get more graphical fidelity, so the expectations rise as well. And most of the time, the console is unable to render at 1080p natively. It was always running downscaled between 810p, 720p, 900p. I'd be hard pressed to find times where it was at a consistent 1080p resolution. And they were so hellbent on having a 60 frames per second target that they probably decided to remove split screen when the ratio of visual quality to frame rate couldn't match. And the Xbox One evidently was not strong enough for 343's graphical ambitions. But I would have preferred 30 frames per second split screen over nothing at all. I absolutely love playing games at 60 frames per second or higher, primarily being a PC gamer. But I like actually being able to play games with friends and family as well. When the console crowd actively goes out of their way to say that they can't tell the difference between 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second, it's like the trade-off to reach 60 frames per second on the Xbox One feels that much less worth it when you consider what had to be sacrificed for 343 to even get there. So what's the verdict here? While visual sacrifices have to be made for split screen to work, the ability to play with friends and family is less about how well the game looks and more about having fun in each other's company. 30 frames per second might not be comfortable as a frame rate for everybody, but when it comes to consoles, people are used to 30 frames per second to the point that they'll actually defend not having 60 frames per second. I honestly doubt people would have complained about a 30 FPS split screen campaign or a 30 FPS split screen multiplayer. 343 says they've learned their lesson though, and Halo 6 will most certainly have split screen.
Alrighty, so that's me talking about Halo 5. Most of what I said kind of applies in this situation too. But, there's a kind of issue. So, split screen is actually inside of Halo Infinite right now. In fact, there is a glitch that can be pulled off currently that allows the game to run. There's a Twitter user, Halo Creation. They have found a glitch in the game. I've actually known about this glitch even before they announced that they're not going to continue with couch co-op split screen, but this person appears to have gotten it working with a glitch. It don't look too bad to me.
Just give me a second. I should be able to get control from here.
I don't know.
Look at this place. It's so full of more monsters coming to kill us.
You'll need to clear me somewhere to land.
Incoming.
Yeah, looks fine to me. So, there's some things to take into consideration. This is running on the Series X. So, the Series X is, last I checked, the Series X is around the power of a GTX 1080, but it's got ray tracing and other features. So, I mean, it's in a much better position to run the game in split screen. So, we don't know how it performs on the Series S or this Xbox One base console. I'm assuming the Xbox One base console would have the most issues. It had a lot of issues with Halo 5. But this base engine is supposed to be more improved, probably more efficient and better, right? At least that was the whole justification for making a whole brand new engine for powering the future of Halo. Of course, when you independently hire everyone as contractors who are not allowed to work on the game for the full duration of the game, and you're having to retrain people on the code base, the long-term version of your code base will suffer a lot. I have personally worked on multiple freelance projects where I have to take somebody else's code base, figure out what the heck was going on in their mind, and then figure out, okay, now what can I do to improve this code base. Sometimes you have programmers of varying quality that you have to work around when you take on a code base that's left behind. And there's cases where I come in as a programmer and I'm like, okay, the last person who worked on this, they did not do a good job. It would be faster for me to just redo this entire feature from scratch rather than try and figure out what mindset they had. Or the person has sunk cost fallacy with the code base they've already poured a bunch of money into, and so you try to make the less than ideal code work. So you have all these contractors rotating and rotating and rotating. I am not surprised that they wasted $500 million to get nowhere. So I don't know. When you don't respect the longevity of your developer base, don't expect good results. Finding proper talent takes a long time. To constantly churn through it for no reason other than to have cheap development costs, well, no wonder the product comes out feeling cheap. It's just, I don't know. It just boggles the mind that if you want to be passionate about making a good product, you want to have developers who are passionate about making a good product, you want to make those developers feel good in their job position and actually value them. But this whole thing has been them trying to nickel and dime at every corner. If they... Now, of course, this was a rumor or whatever. This is just hearsay I'm basing this opinion on. So I could be out of line saying what I'm saying, but just doing independent contractors for the entire development process, no. Like, sure, if there's like you can contract a development studio to help you along with stuff, right? That's not uncommon in the games industry. But if you are constantly churning like individual people, that's just not going to end up with a good result. Like, personally, going free to play was the worst thing that they could have done for the game. It was an excuse for them to nickel and dime every aspect of the game that used to just be something that you didn't have to think about. I did not have to think about grinding for colors. I did not have to think about a stupid battle pass. I did not have to think about anything. I could just buy the game, play the game, have fun with the game. All the features that should be in the game were there on the disc at launch when I played it. This idea that we are going to patch in all the content after we release it because technology has allowed us to be lazy just does not work. And the entire industry has embraced this idea of, we'll fix it later. Back in the day, you did not have the internet to patch things or to update things. What you released on the disc is what people would get. And so, you better make sure that that game, when you print it on that disc, has everything it needs. Because you cannot go back and fix it later. That's changed now. And it's allowed developers to sabotage their own games because we can just fix it later. We can always fix it later. Let's just get it out the door. We'll fix it later. We'll fix it later. No. That's how you destroy a game. You only get 1 or 2 shots to make an impression. I've been patiently waiting for the game to finally release. It has not gotten to that point. This 10-year plan that they have is a 10-year plan probably to get the game to the level of Halo Reach or a previous game that had a far lesser budget, but still was more feature-packed than what we have right now. So I don't know what to say or what to think. I've been patiently waiting for Halo Infinite to be the definitive Halo experience. but it seems like the definitive Halo experience I am looking for has already been made. It's already part of the Master Chief Collection. And when it comes to split screen, how is it that the Coalition, another Microsoft-owned development studio, who has been working on new Gears of War titles. I know people complain that the new Gears of War titles don't really innovate or, do anything new that the original Gears of War games didn't already do, but at least they feel like Gears of War games. They all come with split screen, co-op, and multiplayer, and guess what? I can even do split screen couch co-op on my PC. I still cannot do that with the Master Chief Collection on my PC. For some reason, even though my PC is more than powerful enough. Gears of War games, that works cross-platform, split screen everything. Master Chief Collection, no split screen for PC because I don't know. And yet they have it working on the consoles. And then Halo Infinite, well, I guess you're not going to have split screen co-op on PC or the consoles. So, I don't know. But, you know what, if I want a definitive Halo experience, or at least close to it, because the PC version still doesn't have split screen either, I guess I'll just play the Master Chief Collection whenever I have an itch to play Halo. Halo Infinite just ain't it. And, sure, this has been sparked by other YouTubers complaining about the state of Halo, but if other people are complaining like this, I am a customer who's been waiting to want to buy into Halo Infinite. I am the customer base who has been waiting on the game to finally be something worth picking up and booting up and reinstalling. I'm not the people who have been playing Halo Infinite since it launched, waiting till now, getting frustrated with the game in its current state, because I gave up on the state of the game earlier on. But you're now pissing off the people who were willing to put up with the lack of everything. My standards were higher and I quit longer ago. But I've been waiting for this game to be something that I can finally play. But you've now pissed off the people who have been loyal to Halo Infinite. And to me, that's not a good sign. To me, that's just reaffirming that, okay, I guess I made the choice to not play the game earlier on was probably a good choice. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV, a game that's not even a first-person shooter, but the developers at least appear like they actually give a shit about that game, so that's the game I've been playing for the past year straight. Could have been Halo if it was an actual, fully fleshed out game at launch, but it's not even going to be a fully fleshed out game for, I guess, a few years to come. So, it's frustrating. Halo, the first Halo, was the game that inspired me to want to become a game developer in the first place. And the Bungie Halo games inspired me further to want to pursue game development. And I have gone through a personal journey of learning that the games industry is garbage. As a developer, and mostly as a consumer now too. So, I don't know. I don't really play many games anymore. Every game that launches, I have to think, how are they going to screw me over? How are they going to screw it up this time? I've lived long enough to see my favorite franchises get absolutely destroyed by the corporate mindset of just ruining games as an art. So, it's a shame. I have personally dropped out of the games industry. I no longer even make passion projects as games because of the current state of things. And I really wanted this to be an industry that I could be passionate in and take part in. But there's no passion in the games industry. It's very hard to find now. So, I don't know. I guess I'm going off on a side tangent here, aside from Halo Infinite. This is a bigger problem than Halo Infinite. It really is. There's not a single game anymore out that I can care about. Final Fantasy XIV. The only game so far that has been continually holding my interest, and that's because they respect their players for the most part, and they actually mostly listen to people's feedback. So, I don't know. The games industry just needs to do better. That's all I have to say. Hopefully this video is somewhat insightful. This is probably the most candid I've probably had to be with something. But these are just things that have been bubbling in my mind. I've had a lot of time to think about them. And I am finally putting these out into the world on a camera. So, I'll see you guys whenever I decide to make another video. It's been seldom that I've been inspired to really make any videos gaming related at all.